will jump center. Jerry Scherzinger, Mike Kosierski, and Corey DeGroot, your officials. Toledo wins the tip. They're their home whites, and UNOH in maroon. This is Ray J. Dennis, the Rockets' new point guard with the ball. Finds Milner on the wing. The three ball wouldn't go. It's corralled by Cedric Delancey Jr. He's from the Bahamas, where the Toledo Rockets just were over the Thanksgiving holiday, from Freeport to be precise. Johnson, Nichols, and Westrick all from the Lima area. Biggs Johnson played his high school ball in Lima. Nichols and Westrick were teammates at Ottawa Glandorf. And Zach Montz averages just under 8 points a game from down in Pickerington. This is Owen Nichols from the outside, and the Racers have an early lead. A familiar five for Toledo. Ray J. Dennis running the point. Ryan Rollins, what a start to the season he has had. And Raheem Moss, the other guard, with Milner and Shoemate in the front court. Here is JT Shoemate from the outside, and we're tied at 3.
You know, and JT Shoemate, that's the aspect of his game that we saw just at the end of last year. He kind of caught fire from the perimeter, and boy, he's been on fire behind the big line so far early in this season.
Yeah, just 52% from 3 so far this year. That's pretty good if memory serves. Having a really impressive start to the season, like a number of his teammates. Soft touch off the high glass. Ben Westrick.
Ben Westrick's one of those double-digit scorers, along with Biggs Johnson we talked about. But they're, tonight it's going to be important for them to try to develop some scoring depth, as only those two players are in double figures. Need other guys to step up and aid them. And for Toledo coming in this ballgame, perimeter shooting, we highlighted only 44% so far this year. Obviously, you want to see that improve, and with gained confidence and opportunity. And defensive rebounding, this is an undersized basketball team in the big picture. However, done a good job already this year. Out-rebound their opponents by 7. They got 5 guys averaging 4 more rebounds a ball game. That needs to be a collective effort all season long for them to limit those second chance opportunities and also develop that depth. We talked about it. 4 guys in their top 8 are freshmen. It's a learning process. They're continuing to learn, and tonight will be a good night to continue to do that. And for Northwest Ohio, offensive efficiency, they struggle shooting the basketball. They're only averaging 64 points a game, shooting 41% from the field. But they've been so far so good for them in that category. And also force contested jump shots defensively, make Toledo shoot over contested arms, and the X factor. We talked about the need for that 3rd or 4th guy to come in double figures. Who is that 3rd and 4th guy for them? We'll find out.
An early charge called on Ryan Rollins. Well, the Racers off to a good start. 2 minutes in. They actually played in Toledo just 6 days ago. Sylvania, to be precise. Playing Lourdes University in a Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference game. Lost by 25, 94-69. The starting 5 combined for just 20 points. Ryan Rollins on the board and tying it up at 5 apiece.
Yeah, Ryan Rollins, he's been on fire all season long for this ball club. But he can do it from all 3 phases of the floor. And you saw the mid-range game there.
Montez, the senior guard, long and lean, 6'4", driving. Tough shot, and they made it over Shoemate.
Yeah, nice job with the left hand, too, to get it over the taller Shoemate.
Montez just under 8 points and 5 rebounds a game. Actually played here 2 years ago when the Racers came to Toledo, took on the Rockets, a game that Toledo won by 59. So Raheem Moss knocks down the 3. That's his first of the season after missing his first 8.
Yep, first of the season. And we talked about, Toledo here, they're going to put some full court pressure on, and we see them do more of this early in this season, maybe as in seasons past, with that increased athleticism on their roster. They feel that maybe they can speed up the opponents, or at the very least take time off the shot clock and get teams deep into the shot clock where they'll take contested forced jump shots at the end of it.
That game between the two teams 2 years ago that Toledo won 100-41. They were led by Dylan Alderson, who had 30 points. An overwhelming career high from Dylan Alderson, too, as the Racers are called for 10 in the backcourt. Who might be able to have an offensive breakout game like that for this year's team?
Well, I think, as far as the core group, the guys on the floor right now, the starters, maybe Raheem Moss, a guy that he's known for his ability to defend, to get out in transition. Maybe, he's knocked down some more shots from the perimeter here this evening, averaging 6 points a game to come to this one. But you just want to play good basketball for Toledo. You want to bring the energy early and just get into a flow, get into a rhythm offensively and share the basketball. When they do that, they're really good, and because you got multiple guys on the floor that can score. You don't want to play outside of yourself and outside of your strengths.
Montes missing on the spin. Raheem Moss comes up with a rebound, averaging 6 points and almost 5 rebounds a night. Rollins always making himself available. What a pass in midair to find Seth Milner from the outside. Montes snags the rebound. Ryan Rollins, a guy that has made the adjustment from being a guy to being the guy this year, looked pretty easy a lot of the time.
Yeah, it could have gone any better for him a season ago to learn under Marion.
So Jeff is in his chair. That's got to be kind of a tough thing when you're making the transition from being lead assistant to the head man, even if it's just for one game.
Yeah, it is different because you have the final say. But Coach Massey is a guy that has the full respect of the other coaches and the players as well. So he'll be fine on that bench here this evening. But it's definitely a different situation when you're the final say.
We all respect what Cedric Delancey Jr. just did, the steal and flush in transition. Toledo with a couple of freshmen in the game. In Cooper Jacoby and Elijah Wilson, as Ray J. Dennis makes it rain from the outside.
And that's a big shot for Ray J. Dennis. It's his 5th made triple on the season, but only shooting 18% from the arc. So we'll see if that gets him going.
Elijah Wilson, a long and lean freshman from down in Georgia. Jacoby at 6'6" from Sellersburg, Indiana. Montes, that wouldn't go. An offensive rebound and stick back for Westrick.
It's a nice job by Ben Westrick there on the inside. Just fight tooth and nail, and he got the offensive rebound put back.
Westrick having a really good freshman season for UNOH. 11 points and almost 6 rebounds a game. Dennis is fouled all the way up by Hunter Bodie. Transfer from the University of the Cumberlands, another NAIA school. Got to a couple of NAIA national tournaments there.
A nice move there by Ray J. Dennis there. He looks middle, takes a couple dribbles. The defense jumps his strong hand there and just reverse pivots, gets to the baseline, and gets contact.
A very different kind of point guard to what we got accustomed to seeing from Marion Jackson the last 4 years. Though one similarity, both excellent foul shooters. Dennis at 83% so far in the young season.
Yeah, that was a big question, is how are you going to replace Marion Jackson? Well, you go out and you get Ray J. Dennis, who was a transfer from Boise State. And just early on in this season, and you watch him, he just seems like he's a very even-keeled demeanor. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, just continues to play one possession at a time. That's what you want out of your point guard. That'll settle everybody else down and keep them calm as well when you go through those tough stretches in a ball game.
Biggs Johnson threw that into no man's land, and here comes Seth Milner Jr. off the small square.
We said in the open, we said that Cedric Milner can beat you in so many different ways. Back of the basket, his face-up game is what separates himself from most guys. And that time getting out in transition, utilize that athleticism to get to the rim.
Wilson poked his hand in there, almost dislodged it. Athleticism and length making Northwestern Ohio look really uncomfortable. That's their 4th turnover. Ryan Rollins, JT Shoemate both back in for Toledo. EJ Farmer in for the first time, and that's Jalen Clark from Indianapolis checking in for the Racers.
A little 2-2-1 3/4 court here. They're going to drop back man.
Worth noting that while this is a regular season game for the Toledo Rockets, as Rollins knocks down the mid-ranger, it's an exhibition only for UNOH.
What a great opportunity for them. You make the short drive up I-75, and you get to play in front of a Division I crowd in a Division I arena. A chance to show yourself well here this evening.
At least in terms of time spent on the road, there aren't too many short journeys on I-75. Not now, not ever. In transition, Jalen Clark with a layup.
Jalen Clark, he's one of those guys that's capable of scoring in double figures. In the last ball game, he had 13 against Lourdes University. Providing that spark off the bench.
And that was a game in which Caleb Williams was really mixing and matching his lineup. Got a couple of starters that played less than 10 minutes in that game, just looking for anybody to chip in. Here's Jacoby, 2 defenders around him. Found Shoemate, who gets a bump with 5 seconds left on the shot clock. That's 2 fouls on Boney now off the bench, and he'll have to take a seat.
It's a tough break there for UNOH. You got Toledo isolated in the corner. You're in position to guard it late in the shot clock. You're going to force probably most likely a contested shot over hands, and you get the body call. It was the right call. Just, tough one if you're Coach Williams. You work so hard defensively.
Rollins, nice find to Jacoby, count the bucket.
It's a great job by Ryan Rollins keeping his head up, and good job by Cooper Jacoby just moving without the basketball and found a lane where Ryan Rollins could find him. Good catch, good finish, good strength by Cooper Jacoby.
Jacoby, a math major from Sellersburg, Indiana. Todd Kowalczyk has described him as the kind of guy that makes coaches play him. What does he mean when he says that?
He just has a relentless motor, and he just does not just score baskets. I mean, it obviously gets anybody's attention, but it's the little things. It's the energy. It's the attention to detail. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And so what does that do? That develops trust, not just with your teammates, but with your coaching staff as well. And that gets you on the floor, more times than not.
Trevon Wells. The 2 defenders collapse around him, and he turned it over. Here's E.J. Farmer at the other end. Had much of an angle, and I think got a bump on the way up, too. Here's Wells to Cleveland Central Catholic. That's a miss, and a contested miss on the inside. Maybe not the best look. Rollins lost it, but it popped right out to Dennis, and he finds Farmer inside. Count the basket.
Man rotation that they've eaten up, a couple minutes at a time. Now, hope maybe today, they get some extended minutes, as well, and see what kind of a rhythm they can play their way into. And obviously, the guys maybe that have been near the end of the bench maybe haven't gotten nearly as much time as them. They get in as well and kind of showcase themselves and see what they can do. But you got to take care of business first. You got to go to A to B, C to D to get to that point.
Jalen Clark looking for anybody to make themselves available. Here's Delancey Jr. rising up and clanging the jumper from the free throw line. Here come the Rockets on the run out to lob to Milner.
You could see that materialize as they were coming down the floor. Ray-J Dennis head up, Seth Milner running hard and finishes with authority.
It's one of those things you could see once they hit about the midcourt stripe. It's like, I know exactly where this is headed.
When you got your big guys running the floor as a point guard, you got to reward them. And he gave Cedric Milner an opportunity, and he cashed in.
You know where it's going, and there's nothing at all the Racers can do about it. They turn it over again. That's 6 now in this opening half. Here comes Ray-J Dennis, kept it for himself. College, and then at Xavier, and Jordan Loff was so good here under Todd Kowalczyk. Justin Ingram, a program legend. Walter Offit had a really good college career as well. Ended at Ohio University.
All they got to say to players, players, they like to feel out their coach a little bit, see if they got anything left, from their playing days. All they got to say is turn the tape up. It'll speak for itself.
Wells with a miss inside. It's corralled by Shoemate. Here they come on the run again. Ryan Rollins, and that flipped away by Derek Bogey, a freshman from Columbus. E.J. Farmer matches his career high now with 5 points. It's an 18-2 Toledo run, by the way, in the last 5 minutes. They lead up to 16 points.
Toledo now in a little 1-2-2 zone look here. Trying to take away the perimeter game of the Racers.
They're just so long and so quick, and if you're UNOH, there's really no way that you can simulate that. That's a nice find. Trevon Wells as the shot clock expires.
Yeah, Trevon Wells just hanging around and was able to clean up the errant shot.
It's a scoring drought of about 4 minutes that's put to bed. As Dennis goes right around Wells to score. He's got 9.
Ray-J Dennis really got this team off to a great start down there in the Bahamas in their first ball game at 21 against Charlotte, combined with Cedric Milner's 27, a career high for him in that ball game. That kind of set the tone for them down there in that tournament, before Thanksgiving. And you knock off Charlotte, they beat Tulane as well, and then you finish it off with a hard-fought victory against Coastal Carolina, where Ryan Rollins went off for 35. And it's a great trip to take because, number one, it's beautiful, right? The weather's a little bit better up here in the upper Midwest, but you're playing quality opponents from leagues like the American Conference, Conference USA, the Sun Belt, and then you had success. And on top of that, what a great bonding experience for these guys.
Absolutely.
You're away from home, close to the holidays, and it's just you. All you got is you in your teammates and coaches. And, I think, it checks a lot of boxes, what they were able to do down there.
It's another freshman in for Toledo, Mihai Carcona. The Romanian picks up his first foul. Played in every game so far this season. He's only getting 2 minutes a night. A work in progress, to be sure, but somebody who has a pretty high ceiling.
Yeah, very skilled for his size. Great passer. He can extend off the low block area as well. It's interesting to watch his development and see what he can do as the season goes on to help his club.
Montes skipping down the lane. Shot clock violation or a foul? It's a foul on Derek Bogay. It's only his second appearance of the season, by the way. Had 8 points and 5 rebounds off the bench in the loss to Lourdes 6 days ago. A Lourdes Grey Wolves team with one of the most high-profile coaches in NAIA basketball. That's Ohio State legend Dennis Hobson, and a proud Toledoan. Went to Bowsher High School in the South End. Seth Miller got the members bounce off the heel.
Yeah, we've seen Cedric Miller run the floor and score at the rim. We see him there with the face-up mid-range game, as well. Yeah, talk about Dennis Hobson. We both, get to work with him and know him. When he was a broadcaster for a couple of years, and for all his accolades and successes, probably the most humble human that you're going to find, and doesn't talk about his career much unless you ask, but he's done a great job there at Lourdes, and you'd like to see quality guys get rewarded like that.
Carcona, a little bit of a line drive in the end, boarded by the Racers. He's got a couple of Division I transfers from the city of Toledo as well, Dennis Hobson does, to play at Lourdes, and Joey Hollifield and Jackie Harris, both of whom played at Oakland for Greg Campe. Miller going to work, hitting up his own miss. Miller's got 8 points. Dennis has 3. A couple of free throws. Wilson and Jacoby back in. So now you've got 4 guys on the floor with freshman eligibility, plus Dennis in his first year of the program. Carcona going to work. That's blocked on the way up by Westrick. 6'7" freshman from down in Ottawa, Ohio. Westrick and Nichols formed a pretty good 6'7" front court duo in Ottawa Glandorf. That's the kind of high school program, or the kind of high school in Western Ohio. Feels like they're good at just about everything. Circa shot from Montes that wouldn't go.
They're big, they got size and skill every single year after year.
Wilson a miss on a 3.
That's a school, too, that they probably had a chance to win 2 state titles if it wasn't for a guy in high school that they had to compete against in the regionals named LeBron James. They were outstanding.
That's Jacoby. A bit long on the 3 and corralled by Owen Nichols, but given right back. Here's Jacoby again. That's off the underside of the backboard.
If he lost the handle going up, but you're right, underneath the backboard, they're looking to get a chance at a point-blank layup.
Back down to Glandorf was denied a potential crack at a state title because of COVID. They were 25-1 going into a regional final 2 years ago, and everything got shut down. Great hustle from Cedric Delancey Jr. Moss back defensively. Created just enough contact to disrupt. Here's Nichols, a bit long from the outside. Both teams right now having a tough time putting the ball in the basket. UNOH, they haven't scored in 5 minutes. Mihai Carcona will have a chance to end Toledo's scoring drought at around 2.5.
Well, this is what you want, right? If you're Toledo coming in this ball game, you want to play with great energy, share the basketball early, get into a rhythm, and get a lead. And then once you do, then we talk about the opportunity to develop some of your young guys. And, so, you're seeing, 4 guys on the floor right now with, their freshman eligibility, or at least all 5 actually first year in the program, like you mentioned. Ray J. Dennis, a starter, of course, but, the rest of the guys do some subbing here. But it's a chance for them to play extended minutes and go through those ups and downs of knocking down a shot, or, getting a shot blocked, or, maybe your decision making just a tick slow, but as you accumulate minutes and you adjust to the speed and, the game and whatnot, that's when things get better for you. And maybe this is an opportunity tonight where you can see some of those players go through those, those ups and downs, and they'll be better for it, moving forward as you progress through the schedule.
Shoemate, Rollins, and Milner all back in for Toledo. James Johnson, we said he would need to have a big night to keep UNOH in it. So far, he is scoreless. 4 from the floor, 0 for 2 from the outside. Montes rising up, way off. Raheem Moss had it knocked away. Diving on the floor, getting after it. Got it to Dennis in the corner. This is Milner, open for 3.
Cedric Milner Jr., we said, and down in the Bahamas, that 3-game stretch, he knocked down 7 while he was down there, and he's 1 for 3 here this evening from behind the arc. Again, that's probably the one area of his game that is improved, from a season ago. He's shooting 47% from behind the arc coming into this one. Where a season ago he was just 27% from behind the arc, and if he can.
And if memory serves, that 2018 game with Wilberforce was 24 hours after Toledo went on the road and played Oakland. And Wilberforce, on the way to Savage Arena, stopped and played Owens Community College that afternoon. Is that about right?
Yeah, absolutely it was. And the leading scorer for Wilberforce in the game against Owens earlier in the day was leading their team in scoring at halftime of the night session here at Savage Arena.
All part of life's rich pageant, I suppose. Ray J. Dennis called for the foul. And as good a run out as a game like this is for the Toledo Rockets, especially when you're still trying to adjust to being back on the mainland, as they are, having just come from the Bahamas over the Thanksgiving holiday, it's a great chance for a program like the University of Northwestern Ohio to get some run on a Division I college floor.
Yeah, in front of a crowd that is significantly, more than what they're used to playing, and in normal ball games for them, and just like I said, a chance to showcase yourself, and you just as a player, you love it. It's a chance, you relish in that opportunity.
How slick of a passer is Ray J. Dennis, by the way?
He's a smooth operator out there, calm, cool, and collected, and just steady at that point guard position. But then taking shots when he has his openings, he can make you pay as well.
One of the first things Coach Kowalczyk said to us when we asked about Ray J. Dennis, it was willing passer. And Jeff Massey, I'm sure, would agree.
In battle tested. We tell you, transfer from Boise, but he started half of the ball games out there over the course of his first 2 seasons. So someone he's been in it, he's been through it, and he can bring that experience here to, again, this basketball team that returned a core of quality players this year, but also a very young group at the same time.
Good hands from Shoemate. Milner will put it on the deck, weaves his way around Bix Johnson to lay it in. 13 for Milner.
So we've seen Milner finish at the rim. We've seen the face-up mid-range game, knocking down the 3, and that time putting the ball on the floor and getting all the way to the rim. Versatility for 4 and white.
Racers trying to get something, anything going offensively, shooting just 28%. Have turned it over 11 times. That's not going to help. Biggs Johnson missing everything. Moss hanging up in the air and laying it in.
And a nice job by Ryan Rollins. Head up on the left side of the floor. Found Moss. Cutting to the basket on the right side. Good finish by Moss.
7 points and 6 boards for Raheem Moss thus far. Turnaround jumper. That's a clang from Owen Nichols. Didn't have to deal with guys like Seth Milner in the WBL, did he? As Rollins scores on the baseline.
No. No. And that, an uptick in the quality of an opponent for sure.
And the WBL, a darn fine basketball league, if I may say so. But, yeah, they don't make guys like that there.
No, they do not know. It's the versatile skill set of a guy like Cedric Milner as well.
Shoemate didn't get the bounce. Bodie grabbed the rebound. Johnson, nice pass. Bodie got Moss up in the air.
Nice job by Bodie with the pump fake. The pump fake got the defender to fly by. Give him an uncontested shot at the rim.
And Toledo can hold for one shot at the end of the half. Ryan Rollins, 6 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. Rollins to Shoemate, the stuff from the baseline.
Well, again, good job, Ryan Rollins. Good job.
Todd Kowalczyk, Toledo's head coach, is not here. He is visiting his father back home in Wisconsin, who is ill. Jeff Massey, the associate head coach, is serving as head coach for this game. And that's not the start to the second half that Caleb Williams would have wanted. A turnover on the Racers' first possession that leads to an easy Ray J. Dennis bucket. And then another turnover. Found its way to Dennis again, and he sets up Moss.
What a burst by Ray J. Dennis there to blow by the Northwestern Ohio player to get that ball and find Moss.
And already, Coach Williams has Jalen Clark at the scorer's table ready to come in.
But that's the energy level and the effort level that you want if you're Coach Massey coming out of the locker room. Despite the score, you're still competing as if this is a tie ball game.
Montes, a shot put off the backboard. He's made just one of the 8 shots he's attempted tonight, and that's Rollins in the lane. 38
Rollins.
points in the paint for the Rockets, by the way.
So smooth. Just getting the ball down the rim. He read the defender. The defender kind of was going to cheat out to take Milner away in the corner, and he good job finishing.
Shoemate came over for the block to deny Big Ben Westrick, who maybe out of frustration a bit, fouled Raheem Moss. How about Shoemate coming in and not getting the body?
Yeah, good job. Just kind of slid by Westrick there and got his hand on the basketball, and you see just a frustration foul there coming over the shoulder of Moss. And Raheem Moss, and he's built like a tailback. Obviously heavily recruited for football, coming out of high school as well as basketball, and he wanted to come to the University of Toledo, and Toledo fans are glad he did.
JT Shoemate doesn't look like a guy that can bully you on the low block. He can bully you.
Well, he understands angles. He understands body positioning technique. Obviously, the son of a high school coach is him, and as he is, and he just gets you in a bind. He doesn't box you out as a defender.
Another turnover and another dunk for Seth Milner. Give him 15 points. And watching the way JT Shoemate operates on the low block, you'd think he'd been a 5-man forever. He has picked up the position so quickly.
Yeah, and I thought he was a tremendous addition when he came into the lineup, last year, right before Christmas. And he had to learn. He had to learn to play the 5, and it's kind of felt his way through in the first few ball games. Really hit his stride late in the year, but he's come out this season a little bit stronger in the upper body, just playing with a ton of confidence right now. Rollins left it for Milner there on the flush. he might be a little bit undersized guarding opposing fives on some nights, but at the same time, he puts opposing defenses in a tremendous bind with his ability to stretch the floor.
It's been one of the criticisms maybe of this Toledo roster and the way it's made up in the offseason was that it's a team that isn't very big, but the reality is they're a little bit short at one position, and that's the 5. JT Shumate, not a typical 5-man, but otherwise your guards are quite long, and, well, who wouldn't want Seth Milner playing the 4 for you?
Well, without question. And so how do you deal with being undersized? Well, there's a lot of things you can do defensively. You can scrape down from the guard slot to kind of disrupt the post move that's being made. You can ball pressure obviously helps as well from post-entry passes, and you can double. But more importantly, on the rebounding aspect of it, it's got to be a collective effort from all 5. And as we talked about, 5 guys for Toledo this year average 4+ rebounds a game, which has allowed them to out-rebound their opponents up to this point. That's how you adjust to being maybe undersized a little bit in some ball games. But I think with the way the game has gone, though, with this positionless basketball, having a true 5 is maybe a little bit overrated in terms of more or less as being efficient in terms of spreading the floor and having multiple scores.
A 5-man that can do that is becoming a lot more common than what a typical 5-man was, say, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Absolutely. And that's how this game has evolved over the course of the last 10 years.
You and I could call an entire season of Mid-American Conference basketball here and only see an old-school bruising center 2 or 3 times. It used to be that Rob Senderoff would bring his Kent State teams in here. You'd see a guy like Adonis De La Rosa from a couple of years ago who was 6'11", 280, and you kind of think, oh, how quaint.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But I think you've seen the transformation of a lot of rosters to go to that. Definitely 4 guys on the perimeter, if not all 5. And if you got multiple shooters, as a defense, you can't cheat off of guys and double and provide extra help, because that creates open shots for guys that make them. So you have to play your own guy tough, tight on the perimeter. That creates bigger driving lanes, for guys to put the ball on the deck and get down the lane and continue to break down your defense.
Neither Raheem Moss nor Ray J. Dennis have missed a shot so far, by the way. Moss 5 of 5 from the floor. That includes a 3. Dennis 4 for 4 with a 3 and also a couple of free throws. So Moss 11 points and 6 rebounds. It's Jalen Clark, the freshman from Indianapolis, went to North Central High. John Barker in off the bench. 3 off the front of the rim. His best game was at Lord's a week ago, 9 points in 25 minutes off the bench. Transferred from Ohio Northern. Bodie, nice finish with the left hand. And then they force a turnover right away. That's Jalen Clark reading the inbounds pass.
Yeah, Toledo fell asleep there on the inbounds pass. Nice job by Northwestern Ohio.
Turnaround shot wouldn't drop for Nichols. Kept alive, though, by Barker. Here's Bodie from the outside. And boarded by Ray J. Dennis.
It's a good possession by Northwestern Ohio. Just showing they're continuing to compete, getting on that offensive glass, creating turnovers. For Coach Campbell, that's what you like to see out of your club, despite what the score is.
Tulane by 20 and had 20 offensive rebounds. And then we're 19 down in the first half against Coastal Carolina in the championship game. Storm back to win by 9. Ryan Rollins, as we've said, at 35 points, a career high for him. It's a heck of an experience, both in terms of just getting to go to the Bahamas and soak up the sun and all that. And Ray J. Dennis had talked about what a magnificent experience, something he never imagined he'd get the chance to do. But to see different kinds of teams and win different kinds of games this early in the season, that is so helpful long term.
Well, exactly right, because as we know, we take out the shoemate. Nice job in the class by Cooper Jacoby. But we know what the Mid-American Conference is. You see it every year. It is a grind, and at times during the conference play, it's about perseverance, because you're going to have your ups and downs, and, it's just like, survive it and get on to the next game. But you get, playing teams from those conferences is only going to help you for league play. That's why you do it. And the fact that they play 3 games in 3 days, that's what Coach Kowalczyk really enjoyed, Ray J. Dennis knocking down the triple. is it prepares them for a Mid-American Conference tournament where you're going to have to win 3 games in 3 days, to win the championship. And, how do you handle, it goes like off the court stuff. Like, how do you handle preparation when you only have a day, a day to prepare and you don't get to go live in practice, and it's more of mental reps and walkthroughs. And nice job there, nice play.
Jacoby to Dennis to Wilson. That was slick.
And, and how do you handle fatigue? How do you take care of your body? How do you eat, during the 3-day stretch, and recovery? Those are things that the casual fan might not think about.
Sure.
But it's important. And to go through that experience is the only way you learn how to handle it. There's another reason why they make a trip like that. Plus, it's lifelong memories you'll never forget.
Absolutely. It's tough enough trying to eat appropriately for a tournament like that. It's even more difficult when it's Thanksgiving, I would think.
Yeah, that's why they got it out of the way before Thanksgiving.
I was going to say, eat too much turkey and you'll sleep through the championship game. E.J. Farmer is in, and Seth Milner back in for Toledo. That was a tournament that was supposed to have 8 teams in it. Abilene Christian couldn't make the trip at the last minute because of COVID issues in their camp. That meant that the first round game that was scheduled between Abilene Christian and Coastal Carolina didn't take place, and Coastal got a bye into the second round. Milner giving it up to Jacoby, had it stripped on the way up, and it ends up in the hands of Trevon Wells. Probably a good thing in the end that the nightcap of that first day didn't take place. Hunter Bodie scoring inside for UNOH, because the Tulane Drexel game was delayed for 4 hours because of a rainstorm that meant the roof started to leak onto the court. They ended up finishing that game on the practice court. One of the more peculiar things I can recall seeing. Although, if you're going to play games in the Caribbean or in Mexico, Central America, wherever, sometimes you're playing games in hotel ballrooms, and sometimes the rain ends up in the ballroom.
Yeah, and the fact they had, we saw this in Las Vegas too, and in the Bahamas and other places, that you had 2 or 3 tournaments coming in back to back to back, and these kinds of revolving door of games being played, and hats off to the crews down there just to adjust and make sure it was everything was ready to go.
You see that in those early season tournaments. You see games every now and again where they put a basketball court over like a hockey rink, and it gets a little bit too warm, so the rink starts to melt and nobody can get their footing. It's Wells with a miss inside. Seth Milner's been really good, 17 points. Just about everybody out there in white has been really good tonight. A.J. Farmer, that was halfway down and out.
Good balance on that shot and that little step back. Just couldn't get it to fall. But he's an aggressive player on both ends of the floor. If he gets an opportunity, he's gonna take his shots, and obviously hopes to knock a few down along the way.
Jacoby the rebound off that miss. Rollins one in.
Allowed them to hit their stride to the point where they could throw the ball and run the ball at will in the last 3 ball games. So good for them to get 7-5, get a chance to go to the Bahamas, enjoy that weather, and play a quality opponent in Middle Tennessee State.
Mihai Carcona is called for the foul. Jameer Hill is in for Toledo, number 1. The backup point guard played less than a minute in the Bahamas over 3 games. There he is from Joliet, Illinois. And I tell you, one guy, back to Toledo football for a second, one guy that I'm delighted for in particular is Bryant Koback, the marvelous Toledo career that he's carved out. I remember, obviously he's from the Toledo area, as Biggs Johnson finally hits his first shot of the night after missing his first 5. I remember his senior year of high school at Springfield when he had that awful broken leg, and you're wondering if he might ever play again. Goes down to Kentucky, transfers back home to Toledo, and he's been just magnificent.
Outstanding, and I believe he finished his career in the top 4, I think. I might be off on that maybe, but definitely top 5 rusher in Toledo history. And he's coming off that injury to have a career like that, in this conference, a local kid, hometown kid. Hats off to him, and he gets to cap it off, and in the Bahamas.
How about Ben Westrick, the big fellow, running the floor for the Racers and throwing it down?
Anytime your big guys run the floor, you got to reward them or they won't do it again. And he said you got the nice job there. It's been an efficient game. 3 of 5 from the field is Ben Westrick. One of those double-digit scores, one of those 2 double-digit scores on the year for the Racers.
A.J. Farmer to the free throw line. Nichols picks up his second foul. Brian Koback, really nice young man, too. I know from interviewing him a handful of times. Great kid, great family. Carcona and Jacoby trying to keep the missed free throw alive. Ends up in the hands of Elijah Wilson. And Wilson into the lane, flicking it in.
Nice job, Elijah Wilson. He didn't force the issue. He just probed with the dribble. Got to utilize that size of the inside to finish over the top of the smaller defender.
That was really smooth, wasn't it?
Yeah, took his time, got to his spot.
Oh, and Nichols, 3 ball from the top. He's got 6 points.
Yeah, 2 threes for him. Started the ball game, got the Racers on the board with one earlier to start this ball game.
Carcona off the front of the rim. Tried to rip it back from Westrick. It's a hell ball. The arrow will keep it with Toledo. Raheem Moss will come back in, and Keyshawn Saunders will see his first action of the season. Here's a guy that had a major role to play off the bench for Toledo the last couple of years. Has found himself on the outside looking in so far this year behind guys like Farmer and Wilson. We'll see what he can do in the last 9 minutes of this one. Moss going to work inside. That's his first miss. Carcona was there, and he drew the foul.
It's a good time for Carcona, Farmer. We'll talk about Elijah Wilson, extended minutes here. Jameer Hill as well. Keyshawn Saunders, guys that haven't gotten a lot of minutes. In terms of large amounts of minutes in segments. This year they've come in and they've given minute 2 or 3 at a time to give the starters a breather. But now get some extended run here. And see what kind of rhythm they can get into collectively as a unit as well as individually.
Mihai Carcona gets the second free throw to go. Carcona, a guy that came to the States as a teenager to pursue his basketball dream. Most recently was at a school in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's represented Romania at the youth international level. And that's Heels on the sideline from Biggs Johnson. He can erupt for big offensive games. Had 25 in one of their 2 wins this season. They've beaten Spring Arbor 66-60 on November the 6th. And then trailed Lawrence by 21 and ended up winning by 2. He had 25 in that game. Carcona at the rim.
But I think Biggs Johnson will also tell you he hasn't seen the defenders of a guy like Ray J. Dennis and Raheem Moss.
And it makes you better.
It does. It's iron sharpens iron, and that's what it is. And just got to get used to playing to the speed and strength of it.
Keyshawn Saunders, a miss on the catch and shoot 3. That is something that he has been good at the last couple of seasons. Start at Michigan. Kind of unlikely.
Yeah. Jayshawn Tate played at Ohio State.
Jayshawn Tate as well.
They're on the same team. They won this.
I remember because they beat Toledo Whitmer in the state championship game. Taco Charlton was on that team as well. It's Carcona backing into Trevon Wells and gets called for the charge. Taco Charlton, Karis LeVert, Jayshawn Tate, all on that Pickerington Central team. And that was a Whitmer team they went up against that had Nigel Hayes, who's now playing for Barcelona and charmed America when he was in the NCAA tournament at Wisconsin. And a couple of guys that played against each other in the NFL a couple of weeks ago, and Chris Wormley and Storm Norton.
there's a reason why you get to those type of big ball games late in the year, and you're the final final four standing. Is you got guys like that, professional athletes on your team.
Yeah, even if they aren't basketball players per se, they're winners. Step back three from Hunter Bodie. Jameer Hill went up for it, but Wells took it away, and Carcona fouled him.
It's a nice job by Wells. On the inside, they're utilizing the head fake.
Mihai Carcona has only been on the floor for 8 minutes, but he's picked up 4 fouls to go with 4 points and 3 rebounds. They all count the same.
Bank's open. Bank's open. Take it any way you can get it.
Trevon Wells averages 4 points and a couple of rebounds a game.
And then the second one doesn't even touch the rim.
Perfect.
It's picture perfect.
Picture perfect.
Swish. 2 for 2. That's all. Hey, the stat column, it's 2 for 2.
It's like every base hit is a line drive to the opposite field or whatever, and every made free throw looks like that second one.
No doubt about it. Nice job, Cooper Jacoby, utilizing that strength on the inside to elevate and finish. We get called for a foul here. He's really going to help this club. I really believe, as moving forward. He's the first post coming off the bench. He's, again, I talked about him earlier, a high motor, high basketball IQ. And he's one of those guys that does a lot of the little things right, that earns trust with the players, the coaching staff. But he's also extremely skilled as well. And the biggest thing that he'll do between year 1 and year 2 of his career is add upper body strength. We've seen it with JT Shoemate. And, it'll serve him well.
Keyshawn Saunders saw a lane and exploited it.
Yeah, nice job. Again, known for his ability to catch and shoot from the arc, put the ball on the floor, and accelerated to the rim.
Cooper Jacoby, does he remind you of Jordan Loff?
He's got more of an offensive game than Jordan Loff. His motor does. Getting up and down the floor, competing every possession, and laying out on the floor, getting dirty, and all that good stuff. All those intangibles reminds me of Jordan Loff, but he's a little bit more skilled, I believe, on the offensive end than Jordan was. But Jordan was tough as nails. He embodied him, himself to the city of Toledo from Northwest Ohio, Napoleon High School. But just the way he played night in, night out, played injured, played hurt, and just made big plays after big plays, for this team, throughout his career. I mean, in fact, they got to the point, big Carcona going down their lane,
bumper cars.
But he got to the point in the end of his career, his senior year, where he wasn't even practicing because he had a bad back, but he was able to conserve enough on game day to get out and compete, give his team a chance to win. You just can't have enough of that on your team. Enough guys that are willing to do that on your team, and I think compared to Cooper Jacoby, it's that same kind of motor that I think compares to a Jordan Loff.
Hunter Bodie probably isn't too pleased with his teammate Jalen Clark right now for coming from behind and essentially shoving Mihai Carcona right into him. It's the first free throw. Not often does one guy kind of change a program, but Steve Hawkins, the longtime Western Michigan head coach, came down and worked a broadcast with me last year, and he was telling me, really more than anybody, Jordan Loff, more than any one player, rather, Jordan Loff really kind of changed this Toledo culture, because bringing Jordan Loff in and letting him set the tone, let everybody know that this is a blue-collar Toledo program now.
I was just going to say that hard hat, lunch pail kind of guy. Tremendous defender. Great defender. Always had great positioning, took charges, got on the floor for loose balls, saved possessions for his club. You're right. He was a tone setter. He was a tone setter for the rest of the team, and really carved out a great career for himself here at the University of Toledo. And when he was left open from behind the arc, he'd beat you now. Don't fool yourself, even though I think Cooper Jacoby has more maybe offensive firepower than he did overall. Jordan Loff could hold his own from the floor as well.
It's still weird thinking that once again a Western Michigan team will come here at the end of December and Steve Hawkins won't be the head coach. He was the head man for such a long time. His former assistant Clayton Bates has taken over that program. They've won their last couple of games. Played in a tournament down in Fort Myers, Florida, and beat Fort Wayne and Southeastern Louisiana both in overtime. That was after Saginaw Valley State went to Kalamazoo and beat them by 18 points. That was after Beardis White, their standout point guard, was injured against Michigan State.
Speaking of Michigan State, we said that's the next opponent for Toledo after this game, and an opportunity to go up there and play against one of the best teams year in and year out in the Big Ten Conference. Again, it'll be a very clear indicator on where you are at on both ends of the floor, which is great. You can build off its successes, but also they give you a chance to really learn what your deficiencies are against an outstanding opponent, and you're going to have about 2-3 weeks to get that taken care of before you enter league play.
Plucked out of the air by Derek Bogue. Of course, I'm not sure Toledo will be too phased by the crowd up at the Breslin Center, because they went and played down at Croy Gymnasium at the University of Findlay in their exhibition game. That is such a tough place to go and play.
Quality you must have as a basketball team. But they've done a great job. Look at the non-conference here. Early in the season, we've seen. We talked about the wins that Toledo had, but also you look at Northern Illinois. Got a win at Washington out of the Pac-12 earlier this season. I think on the women's side, you saw a nice job Elijah Wilson with the pull-up. But yet, Kent State's women just this last weekend knocked off UCLA and Penn State. They're going out. The MAC teams are going out and playing people. And even if they're not coming up with a win, they're showing themselves extremely well, which just shows how much talent there is out there across this country.
So that UCLA team that Kent State beat was ranked top 20 in the country, so not just a big name, but a really good basketball team. Todd Starkey does such a fine job with that Kent State program and has for years now. Keyshawn Saunders knocking in a three, and Toledo now just 4 points from 100.
Nice job by Keyshawn Saunders. Feet set, shoulders square. He drilled it. We saw him put the ball on the floor and finish at the rim as well. Getting to a little bit of a rhythm here in the second half. But I even think, we've seen on the women's side Notre Dame. Muffet McGraw brought her teams in here to Savage Arena to play in front of the big crowd that UT's women are known to have. And, Tricia Cullop's crew has always, played them extremely tough, here in Savage Arena. And, one that Muffet McGraw always says it's a win-win for their team, playing in front of a big crowd against a quality team, facing adversity, which would get them ready for the ACC tournament and as well as the NCAA tournament.
Bogue fouled Saunders to put the Canadian on the free throw line.
We saw, even like last year, Ohio won the Mid-American Conference tournament, and they got into the NCAAs and got a first-round win. The Mid-American Conference puts out good players, good teams year in and year out, and if you're not prepared to play them with your A game, you always run the risk of getting beat.
Ohio's win over Virginia last year in the first round, that was one of those increasingly rare, it feels like, popular, trendy upsets that everybody picks in the first round of their bracket that actually came to pass.
For sure. I mean, they were led by nice guy inside, dishing off Jameer Hill to E.J. Farmer. They got hot. Jason Preston got healthy, and they got hot, and and he was outstanding. But they had, Vanderplas is back again this year for Ohio. He had a big tournament run as well, and their complimentary scores contributed.
Toledo incidentally picked third in the preseason poll behind Buffalo and Ohio. They got one first place vote. That was Todd Kowalczyk, who said, hey, somebody's got to be smart. And of course, it's a Toledo program that won the MAC regular season title last year with about a week to spare, if memory serves.
Well, the job that Coach Todd Kowalczyk's done with this program is it's eye-popping. And what he's been able to do is Keyshawn Saunders again knocking down a triple, his second of the ball game.
And Toledo with now 102 points.
I mean, if people remember when Todd Kowalczyk got to this program, they were in dire straits, and they won like 4 games, and But he came in here. He's able to recruit extremely well. He got high character guys in the program along with talented guys. And all he's done is have 20-plus wins in 5 out of his 8 seasons here at the university. And they're constantly, in the hunt, winning MAC West titles, constantly in the hunt in the MAC tournament, trying to get over the top, get in the NCAAs. Tremendous model of consistency for this program during his tenure, and you just can't overstate that because so many teams have the roller coaster, the extreme highs or the extreme lows, and his ball clubs have been steadily in the upper half of this conference year in and year out.
Saunders, nice. 11 points for Keyshawn Saunders in his first run out of the season. He's only been on the floor for 8 minutes.
And we're seeing them do it, and it's behind the arc. We're seeing them put them on the floor at the rim. That time finishing at the rim. Getting good run here and taking advantage of it.
A moment to remember for John Barker. Getting a mid-ranger from the baseline. Carcona through 2 defenders.
Nice job going to the left hand as well. Finishing through traffic was Carcona.
It's Christian Godsell, a senior from Garland, Texas, with a miss from the corner. Well, thanks to our crew, Grace Powell, Drew Dominiak, Casey Ackley, A.J. Perry, Al Carpenter, Soleil Barnes, Colin Potts, Jordan Sansom, our director and technical director, Greg Smith. Our executive producer at the University of Toledo is John Idemiller. That was a really impressive